Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Today we are going to continue working on the Yamaha TTR125 engine. Last time I submitted a video, we took the engine completely apart, and I didn't really find anything glaringly wrong in here, but after looking up the parts microfiche on this thing, these shift forks, which were what I suspect is wrong, they're pretty reasonably priced. All three of them all together are about 65 bucks, and the fact that we're in here just led to ordering these over there. There we go. And the dogs are happy about it out there. So I got 3 of these on order. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull these off. We're gonna put this all back together. Get these, because I have this one, it's not even where it belongs. Get this all back together, assemble the lower part of the engine, because I am still waiting on a gasket set to put the rest of this together. So hopefully at the end of today's video, we will have these 2 crank halves together, and we can maybe even get all the clutch and the rotor, get all that sort of stuff back where it belongs. So let's get started, shall we? Well, as I said, there wasn't any obvious damage to these shift forks. There's the old one, here's the new one. But it really doesn't take a lot for these things to cause shifting problems. If these arms on this are just tweaked ever so slightly, it'll cause binding up here in the gears when it moves them. Now, I don't like to just be a parts changer without diagnosing everything 100%, but as I said, since the price was reasonable, we were already in this engine, it only makes sense to just replace these. So this shaft that this slides on is another thing. You want to make sure that that thing is moving smoothly on there. There you go. Feel that? Sliding that shaft in and out of there. Yeah. All right, that's enough, perverts. So we're going to just go through here and replace all 3 of these shift forks. Then we have to try to get the shift drum back in here, which is an art in itself. And then we need to clean up all these mating surfaces. And I am RTFMing, reading the freaking manual. RTFMing. So we're going to make sure we look through the manual and ensure that we have all of the washers. There's a washer right here. Make sure we have all the washers and spacers and things where they belong, and we'll get her back together. Most of the time it's easier to just fit these in like this and try to get them into these grooves on the shift drum, and then put that shaft where it belongs, the shaft that they ride on. No matter how many times I do this, though, it's always a little bit of a challenge. So sometimes you get extremely lucky and it just all pops together. But more often than not, it's not the case. This one here has to go right into the groove on here. And we're just not quite reaching it. Right after a little bit of messing around, you can see I've got the little tabs of these into the grooves on this shift drum, and hopefully you can see we're mostly lined up right in there. So we just have to drop this shaft in there. Just drop it in, right? There you go. All right, now we've got those two new ones in there, this new one in there. You can see that little tab right there is in that groove. This one's in the outer groove, and that one's on the inner groove. And now, hopefully, let's see if we can't rest that there for a second. Now I should be able to walk these gears through a little bit here and shift this. There we go. Kind of rotate it through, but the problem with this is that you can see this one doesn't have support on this side, so it moves a little bit. All right, so that should be high gear right there. There we go. Shift it through all the gears. And you kind of want to do that. You want to walk it through a few times, make sure everything appears to be moving correctly. Because otherwise you put this whole thing together and then you got to take it all back apart again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all these mating surfaces here. So there's a little bit of sealant goop in there. It's not really that big of a deal, but we need to clean this all up so that I can apply a little bit of sealant goop and we can put these two case halves together once I ensure that we're still in time over here on our counterbalancer. We'll make sure we have all the washers, make sure we clean all this stuff out of here. There's a little bit of oil and a little bit of gunk in there. Not too bad. This motor's engine is pretty clean. So I'm going to get cleaning this up and then we will try to get the two halves together. Okay, so we put sealant on this surface. Like I said, there's no gasket for this. So now we got to get these two halves together. And sometimes that can be a lot of fun all on its own. And now I'm trying to do it on camera. And let's see, my son is here, so he'll try to make sure that we have some sort of a view of this. Try to get this all fed through here. You got to get the crankshaft through this side, and we got to get all these other transmission shafts through the other side, which is a heck of a challenge at times. Okay, we're close-ish. Closer. Sometimes you got to turn things a little bit as you're. I cut my finger.
Ouch.
Ouch. Okay. Let's see. Turn that. Turn that. Turn that.
So when it doesn't want to go all the way together, you just kind of have to
wiggle
some things around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blood helps lubricate.
Blood is lubrication.
Just a little tap, tap, tap.
Little tap. Now you don't want to like beat that with a hammer. You can see I had a 2x4 here. A little bit of blood. It's all good. Now what you want to do is make sure everything is still moving. This is moving pretty good right now. And there's our shifter, which appears to be working. Yep, there we go. Shift it through all the gears. So what we need to do now is, my son's closed up my manual, but this one right here, we read the manual. It said where to apply the sealant. Make sure our dowel pins were installed. We got that. Right, and then we need to tighten these bolts as it says here to 7.2 foot-pounds, and on these you're supposed to put some sealant on the end of the bolts. So it says put the sealant on the end of these bolts, number 3. So there's like several of them. So just whatever it says to do in here, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, let's see if we can read this here. So these are 7.2 foot-pounds for all these crankcase bolts. Now I've showed this before on the channel. I have got an inch pounds torque wrench. So if you are going to be a mechanic, you have to know a little bit of math. So what's 7.2 foot-pounds in inch pounds? Aaron? How many inches are in a foot?
12 inches in a foot.
So how many inch pounds are in 7.2 foot-pounds? 7.2 times 12. So 7 times 12 is what? 84.
84.
And then 0.2 times 12 is what? 2.4.
2.4, yeah.
Okay, so how many inch pounds is in 7.2 foot-pounds?
84.4.
All right, so we're gonna torque these down to about 84 inch pounds. So if you're a mechanic, or you want to be a mechanic, you still have to know a little bit of math. And we just did this in our heads, so we'll probably check it on the phone when we're done, just to make sure. So I'm going to start with the stator cover side here. I've already put the cam chain back on here. And remember, we put all the parts here together to make it easy. So we need to install this starter idler, and then the little plate that covers it, which is right here. These two screws, as you can see here, it says the torque value, 5.1 foot-pounds. We have all the torque values for everything here, so we're just going to follow the instructions. This one here even shows the washer. If you watched the video where I took this apart, I asked y'all to remind me of it. But if you RTFM, everything you need is right there. So we can put that on right now so we don't forget about it, but don't put the rest of this stuff on, because first we have to put this idler on. And you can see it shows us exactly how to do it. Handing this over to my son. It's nice to have someone here to help out, even when he acts a clown sometimes. Get in here. There you go. So this one here, the starter teeth come in right where my finger's at there. There you go. And that'll drive that, which then drives onto here. But before we do anything else, we have to get this on. And looking in here, you can see there is a little bit of evidence of what looks like thread lock. So I'm going to need to read the manual to see if we're supposed to put thread lock on there. My thoughts are that we are supposed to. All right, I got the flywheel installed here. Got my son in here. We're trying to get some drone footage. I don't think we're going to be doing it on my channel because neither one of us is a drone pilot. He's actually doing pretty good. Oh my God. There it goes. It's going to crash. That's it for the drone. Get it out of here. Okay, so we torqued these down, and I looked in the manual, and even though it looked like there was some thread lock on here, I didn't see any specification in the manual, so I just torqued those down, get this torqued down. My buddy who I'm working on this for ordered a gasket set, but he ordered it from like Micronesia or something, and it'll be here in about 2021. So for now, I'm going to put this on with the old gasket. It's intact, and it doesn't look like it's going to cause a problem. And if it does, we can take it back off. But I want to at least get this engine kind of sealed up a little bit. So we'll put this on. I'll look up the torque specs, and we'll torque those bolts down on here, and then we'll work on the other side. Okay, we got the stator side all put back together, so now we have to try to solve for X here. Yeah, it's almost like an algebra equation. But we took this all apart. I'm certain that we can get it all back together, right? Now, I remember we took this whole mess off, and I put a twisty tie on it so that we'd remember how it all goes. So, using that logic, of course we have the manual as well to help us out, but This is just kind of like some hints and stuff that you can do when you're working on stuff. Washer goes on. Then this gear here, which drives our oil pump, which I still cannot believe it's not keyed to anything. It just seems odd to me, but I guess that's the way it is. And then this helical gear. And let's see, there is a keyway that we have to dig out of here somewhere because this thing has a keyway on it here. Let's see if we can see it. I remember I took it out and I put it in a separate little baggie. I've got it in here somewhere because we need it for that. Okay, there's the little keyway. Remember I put it in a little bag, put that in with the big bag so that we wouldn't forget it. Sometimes these can be a little minor pain to get on here too. This helical gear. And then the washer. And then the nut. Now we'll have to wait till we get everything in here to torque this because remember we have to kind of jam this up with the clutch basket. Moving right along, let's get the clutch basket installed on here. So we have this conical washer. If you look at it, you can hopefully see this a little bit. It's kind of got a wave pattern on it, and when you read the manual, it tells you to put it on, put that out, and then we put this thrust washer on here. Next, and then the clutch basket will go on here. In the perfect world. Fabulous. There we go. Wonderful, huh? Next we have this keyed washer that goes on here. And now our inner, where all the clutch plates and such ride. Now if you remember when I took this apart, I mentioned this little washer here that folds over and how I always forget to get these. Well, I have one. So let's see if I can locate it. We'll open it up and put that on there. There it is, installed. We get our clutch holding tool. Reading the manual, tells us 43 foot-pounds. I got my foot-pound torque wrench, so we don't even have to do math, which is always nice. So I don't know if you remember the other video. It was kind of a pain in the butt to hold this, but we're gonna try it. See if we can hear the click here together. It's hard to hold all this at one time. Ah, there you go. Camera's going crazy. There you go. 43 foot-pounds. So now what you have to do is get in here and try to fold this thing up over one of these flats, which isn't easy either. So I'll knock that out here off camera because you don't need to hear any more cursing than you already hear on a daily basis. Okay, so we got this thing smashed over here onto that flat. That's not going anywhere. And if you're observant, you may notice I installed all the little shifter items down here. Well, I had to pull this basket off. So luckily I caught it before I bent that tab over. Pulled that off, took it all back off. Installed the little shift star down here, torqued that down. That requires Loctite. This bolt here requires Loctite. So now what we need to do is put a rag in here and we can torque that one. And we can also install all of our clutch components in here. So we'll put our friction discs in and our rotors, metal discs. I just stacked them up in here the same way they came out, so we're just going to reinstall them in the same fashion that they came out. But as I say, read the manual. Sometimes I try to get too many of them in at one time. Sometimes you get lucky in the whole shooting match will go in there. Sometimes you don't get lucky. And speaking of lucky, if you remember from taking this apart, we got lucky and didn't lose that ball. So that ball has to go in here before this goes on. So let me get this on. We'll put the outer pressure plate on, and we'll put the springs, the bolts. We'll look up the torque. We'll torque that, and I'll get this torqued, and we'll come back once we're at that point. Okay, so we've torqued the clutch down, torqued the primary drive down, installed the Kickstarter gear, which was kickstarting my ass. And I think we'll just put this back on. Like I said, still don't have the gaskets from my buddy, but already took this off once and it didn't leak. And we'll try it again. And if it leaks, whenever those gaskets show up from wherever the heck you got them from, Istanbul or something, I forget where he said he ordered them from, someplace crazy. So I'll torque those down, and that's as far as we're going to go, because I'm not worried about using gaskets, used gaskets on the side here, but I don't want to use a base gasket and a head gasket again. So that's going to be it for this episode. As soon as I get the gasket set in, we will get the top end of the engine in, and we'll put it back in and cross our fingers that it starts. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.